Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change this from using an array to using an array list. This is an array. I'm in the main tab now, okay? I don't care what I'm talking about, what type of thing I'm talking about birthing, or this car, or whatever type of object. Right now I'm in the main tab, and I'm deciding what type of holder I'm going to put all these objects in. So it used to be an array, and I want to change it to an array list, because an array list can be fluid. Here I have to define 10 things. I have to know how many things I'm going to have in my array. If I use an array list, I could have 0 things in it, I could have 3 things in it, I could add more things as time goes on, I could take things away. So if you've got spaceships and you're shooting at them or you're eating them or something like that, you want to be able to take things off of your array list and only have like 4 or 5 things in them at a time, or then add more to them, take away stuff. So here's a website that just shows you sort of the differences between arrays and array lists. It's kind of neat. It shows you all the differences between the commands. Just a couple of things. An array is a fixed size, like I said. An array list, you can add to it and you can delete from it. Arrays also can contain objects like our cars, but you can have an array of ints. An array list can only contain objects. You can't have an array list of ints. I've learned that the hard way. And I'll post this website up on ReggieNet. It's kind of interesting. You guys can see the URL right here too. So now let's go back to our code that we were just working on. This is the code after we changed the car to have PVectors in it. So hopefully you've looked at the PVector, the 10-minute PVector podcast before you're doing this. Okay, now starting with that code, here's our array. We're going to change this to an array list. So the way we declare an array list is we just do this: capital array, capital list, my cars. Okay, I'm going to take this out. I'm going to just comment it out. Okay, so now we've had an array list cars, and you notice we don't have to say that there's 10 of them. We don't know how many they're going to be. You know, maybe depending on what level the user is in our game, we're going to have more of them. So it's kind of cool that we don't know how many we have in there, okay? So the next thing is, in the setup, only one time, we're going to do this. My cars equals new array list. It's kind of weird that we have to do this a couple of times, but this is like where we're telling them, hey, there's going to be an array list called my cars. Here's where we're making it. New array list, giving birth to this type of array, this new array list, and it's going to be called my cars. Okay. Now here's what we're going to add to. We're going to use the same for loop. We'll make 10 of these cars, but instead of doing this my cars I equals new car, we're going to change this to my cars dot add, and then just new car. Pretty cool. So it used to be my cars with an I in it, but here we're adding. So we're adding each one of these times that this goes through this for loop, we're adding a new car to it. And notice there's not even I in there at all. It's kind of cool. Again, it's because this is like a really fluid and ever-changing thing, an array list. Okay, here, same thing. This is a little bit different. In order to use an array list, in order to operate on something that's inside of an array list, what we're going to do is we're going to pull each element out. So we're going to start with the 0 element, and we're going to pull it out. We're going to stick it in a temporary variable, and then we're going to work on it. So the temporary variable we're going to call temp car. Temp car. And each time we'll change temp car. The first time the temp car will be the 0th element. The second time the temp car will be the first element, and so on. Okay, so here's how we got to do this. It's kind of interesting. Temp car is going to be of type car. So we're declaring it here. Temp car equals, now here's where we're getting it out, fishing it out of the array list. So it's just my cars dot get I. This is a parentheses, not an array thing, not boxed, not the square brackets. It's just a parenthesis, okay? And then there's one other thing we need to do. Because I'd said before, array lists don't exactly know what types of things there are in them. We actually have to cast this as a car. Remember, we used to cast a float as an int when we were doing random, so we cast this as a car. So this should work. So again, this is a really hard line to understand for a lot of people. What this does is when it starts with I is 0, it'll get the 0th element out of my cars. It'll remind it that it's a car, it's type car, and it'll stick it into this variable called temp car, which is also of type car. Yeah. So we're just declaring it here the way we used to declare stuff in the global area up here. We're declaring this temporary car right here. Okay, let's see if it works, shall we? It should not look any different than what it looked like before. So yay, it still works. So the only thing now is that there's a size command with an array list too. So here we're deciding that the array list is going to have 10 cars in it. But here, instead of doing 10 here, I'm going to write my cars dot size. That's kind of cool, because it'll just automatically tell me how many cars I have in it. So I have 10, so that's kind of neat. So run it again, just make sure it works. That's cool. So now you see, if I decide all of a sudden out of nowhere that I want to have 100 cars, I just change it here. Now I should have 100. Pretty neat, huh? I only had to change it one place. Okay. Again, so how this code is working is here's the array list. Here's where we're declaring it. Here's where we're sort of giving birth to it and instantiating it. Here's where we're adding 100 things to it. Add is the command. And here is where we're iterating through the array list again. And this size command just gives us a dynamic, the size of what the array list is right now. So we can change. If I delete stuff from it, this will change. It's kind of cool that we have this. This is the hard line where we're defining a car of type. We're defining a car called temp car, and then we're just temporarily sticking stuff into it so we can drive it and display it. And then we're doing this for every car. And that's it. We did not have to go into this car tab at all. We did not have to modify the class at all. Pretty cool. Save this as ArrayList maybe. Array list.